national health insurance. They have a better understanding of what national health insurance is all about. Our theme is beyond the bill, which we all know that the bill has gone through different processes. Many of you have participated, and the bill is now sitting with the president. Beyond the bill, towards implementation. We've got the minister, and we're not privileged that we have both the minister and the deputy minister. I think that the
Thank you so kindly. We would like to take an opportunity to formally greet and appreciate the presence of the Honorable Minister, Dr. Joe Pala, the Deputy Minister, Minister, Dr. S. Dlomo, our Honorable MSc for Health in Gauteng, our Honorable Deputy Speaker, and the Chairperson of Johannesburg Region, esteemed member present and all protocols observed, we greatly appreciate your presence this evening. And as my colleague has mentioned, we are starting the program to request the Honorable Vuyo Mhlakazi, who is the Deputy Speaker of Gauteng Legislature, and she's also a convener of the subcommittee for health in Gauteng. Thank you so much, Honorable Vuyo.
Just to add, Comrade, member of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress and a PwC member. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It's an ANC government, first and foremost, so let's drop the ministers and the TMs a little bit. That's on the light hand so that you don't get into your feelings those light hand, but otherwise, I'm coming for your like it has been mentioned. The Deputy Speaker is a secondary title, but otherwise, I'm the convener of the committee. Things like TG, it's not there. Let's greet the Comrade TG, of course, greetings to you, Comrade Babu. Greetings, Deputy Chair. Greetings to the Chairman of Johannesburg, seated in front. Let me greet PEC members. Comrade Bandile, Comrade, can you wave, Comrade? Yes, Comrade Bandile. Who else is here? These are our colleagues in the PEC because we've got different subcommittees. That's why they're here to give support. But of course, some are members of the committee. Our esteemed Joburg Chairman of the committee of Joburg, I think he was there registered at comrades of the zone that I am. Comrades of the zone, comrades of branches, and ladies and gentlemen, the familiar faces. Colleagues. When I say colleagues, I'm not a doctor, I just want to keep the greeting flowing. But otherwise, thank you so much. I had a long speech for welcome and so on, but then the time is against us, and everybody is rushing to this or that. But thanks for coming. It's an ANC gathering, of course, but by extension, it becomes a government program because no one is sorry. I'm seeing you now. You pardon me, because I'm seeing familiar faces that I should shout out to. You pardon me on that. TG, you were supposed to virtual. Thanks you all who took the time to be physical, and really all of you will continue. Dr. Jobo, let me again physical. It gives me pleasure, comrades, to open this important session and welcome the quality of life of our people through, among others, the rollout and implementation of the NHI, the National Health Insurance. The NHI bill seeks to provide universal access to healthcare services in the country. Insurance white paper and the Constitution of South Africa. As we may already know, this bill envisages the establishment of NHI and sets out its power, functions, and governance structures to purchase healthcare services. The bill will also create mechanisms for the equitable, effective, and efficient utilization of resources of the fund to meet the healthcare needs of users or limit undesirable, unethical, and no practices in relation to the fund. This means we will feel included even those that are most vulnerable when they go to the clinic or the nearest GP of their choice. They will not. This bill seeks to create access for all, especially those that are downtrodden or are poor. So when we provide this healthcare for as long as it has been a priority of the ANC, access to healthcare is fundamental. It's a right for all, and it gives government the legislative mandate to realize this right. Government has the responsibility to implement universal health coverage to ensure that all people are able to access healthcare, a financial hardship. As it is common to know that private medical aid is only available to those who afford, and we know well the cost of quality healthcare in South Africa. The NHI shows that we are doing something about it, despite what our detractors think or say. The public sector has constrained budgets that are not sufficient to provide healthcare services for the 84+ of the population that relies on the public sector for health. In an overburdened public sector that is characterized by underservicing. Therefore, the NHI fund will protect this suffering hardships financially when they need to access our healthcare. Remember, comrades, a healthy population can work more effectively and efficiently. Economic growth. Productive workforce contributes to the economic growth of local business, attracts foreign investors, and growing the domestic economy. An investment in health is an important safety net against poverty by providing financial protection for everyone. Currently, our front system where resources are distributed unfairly. Access to care, and this will be achieved by cross-subsidies amongst the population. It will also foster social cohesion and contribute to developing a society that is compassionate across all socio-economic groups. However, with it being on its way to being passed, it's now time for implementation. With many unanswered questions. These questions will be answered by the professionals that are here, yourselves that are here, and all of us activists of the ANC that NHI. It has been a resolution of many conferences of the ANC. So our program will tell us where are we, and those who are deployed in government will then tell us, or the naysayers, succeed. It is upon us, it's not just a manifesto program, but it's upon us to make sure that this reaches the poor of the poor, because that is in the main our constituency. And of course we get pushback from private sector. Capital will not sit down, we will take something, we will take their bread. So, but the seasoned activists, I trust that our leaders. These answers, or rather these questions, are being answered by introducing one of our seasoned leaders and health professional, gender and political activist, Comrade Dr. Gwen, not for such a thing like Comrade Dr. Gwen, Atia, Ramkhupa. She's an academic, gender activist, philanthropist, respected servant of the people who believes in an equitable, just, and prosperous society. that offers equal opportunities and inclusive growth. Comrade Gwen is not only Ashweshville. She's a medical doctor by profession, as indicated, holds a master's degree in public health from Makhato University. Her illustrious public life has seen her serving as ABC Health in Gauteng, Deputy Minister of Health, Special Advisor to the Minister in the Presidency, Chancellor at Tshwane University of Technology. She was also the National Health Program Manager of the Independent Development Trust during the transition to democracy and served as a medical advisor at the Gauteng Department of Health. Dr. Gwen continues to pursue her medical profession as an associate of the World Health Organization, collaborating Center on Social Determinants of Health and Health in All Policies, which is based in Victoria, University of Victoria. Her passion and activism for equal opportunities and inclusive growth has also seen her establish the Dr. Gwen Ramhoba Foundation, through which, in collaboration with other allied early childhood education, particularly for children coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, who are fortunate to have additional details on NHI and its implementation. And thank you. Can we welcome him? of universal health coverage deals with the financing of the health system. WHO indicates that health systems have got 6 building blocks, and health financing is one of them. Another, for instance, it's issues of infrastructure, especially in developing countries. Another is human resources for health, and so forth and so forth. So it is important that we locate the NHI within the totality of the health system. The NHI, and it is therefore a very important milestone towards the attainment of universal health coverage. Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals also calls for good health and well-being for all by the year 2030. NHI is a significant contribution towards that. The NHI and universal health coverage also find reflection in Goal 3 of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, which envisions healthy and nourished citizens. Our own National Health Plan also envisions a health system that produces positive health outcomes and that are not out of reach by any of the citizens of South Africa. I'm not going to dwell on what we found in the past 30 years, except to say that before 1994, there had been initiatives to introduce universal health coverage in South Africa, whether through the Klukman Commission, Dr. Klukman Commission, whether reflected in the various documents, including the Freedom Charter, and so forth and so forth. But those initiatives were not accommodated because of the narrow focus of the colonial apartheid policies, which excluded the majority of South Africans and looked mainly after 20% of our nation. But since 1994, the journey to really ensure that universal health coverage becomes the center of the health system of South Africa, and as also envisioned by the Constitution, that journey began to really contribute positively to good health for children, where we are seeing infant mortality rates plummeting. We're seeing severe malnutrition like kwashiorkor and marasmus also having plummeted, almost eradicated in our country. We still remain with stunting amongst others, so the journey has begun, but it's not as yet concluded. We have also seen the improvement of life expectancy as envisaged by the National Development Plan. All of these were realized because of the investment in the health system, all the components of the health system. The Greek physician who we honor in many ways than one, Hippocrates, reflected that health is the greatest human blessings. And by saying so, he alludes to the fact that without health, none of us can enjoy any other blessing. It is in this context that we also reflect on those that have access, for instance, to medical aid, that many of them, our experience has been that the benefit when they get exhausted, the public health system in South Africa has been able to accommodate them. I remember when being MEC for health in Gauteng, the oncology services in KZN, when they experienced serious problems, the people, our people, the patients, knew that they had a right anywhere in South Africa to have access. We used to have transport, buses, taxis, private vehicles coming to Gauteng to access that healthcare. So it is important that we acknowledge that healthcare needs to be available throughout our country. It is also important to acknowledge that there are those even in our settings who have medical aid cover where benefits get exhausted and the public health system has had to be there to ensure that the people, the citizens of South Africa, access this health service. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, I am really proud that the African National Congress has been at the helm of expanding access to quality health care and also preparing for universal health coverage, and the NHI remains a very key milestone. I would like to remind you that when universal health coverage was introduced in the United Kingdom, in Britain, it was immediately post-World War. There was no economy to talk about. So those that say the economy of South Africa should be at a certain level before any one of us can be guaranteed quality health care when in need, and that is a norm globally, it can't be correct. And as we go into the history of universal health coverage globally, we also know that health professionals were amongst those that were vehemently against universal health coverage, the NHS in Britain, because they thought that their independence as doctors would be compromised, their income levels would be compromised. But lo and behold, when I was sent as a deputy minister to the, was it 2022, I'm so sorry, it must be 2012, Olympics, the NHS was celebrated as one of the most important assets of the people of Great Britain. And those that wanted to change it and privatize it had to retreat because of public demand backed by the health professionals, especially medical doctors. So medical doctors have now become part and parcel in the pillar of this health system, and nurses as well, and other health practitioners and professionals. So it is important that we should not be intimidated by those that want to retain the current system for whatever reasons. Others maybe because of the fear of losing the market share, which fear should also not be entertained, because in Britain, when the universal health coverage NHS was introduced, the private sector had to come together to look at how industry can be developed to ensure the sustainability of the universal health coverage. As the Treasurer General of the ANC, I go about trying to raise funds so that I can sustain the organization. And we have colloquia where we invite industry. And the last colloquia we had a few weeks ago, one of the manufacturers of medical equipment in South Africa came through to me and said, I'm really glad to be here because I'm reminded that I'm a doctor. But wherever I go these days, it's teaching. The doctor part of it has fallen off. So he says to me, teaching, the dialogue and the engagement in industry around NHI in South Africa is inappropriate. We should be saying, how does industry prepare itself to support universal health coverage in our country? What products will be needed by a state that guarantees all its citizens, regardless of socioeconomic status, quality health care? And you can see an opportunity there. So it is important that we move out of whether or not to how best we can implement in a sustainable manner from all not one against the other. I want to conclude by wishing you well in the dialogue and assure you that the bit of journey that I was privileged to be part of in the health sector reforms, both in the public and the private sector for South Africa, gives me great courage and great inspiration that it is possible. The last few years, when I was asked to come back as MEC for Health in Gauteng, we used idle time for theatres in the private sector to reduce the long waiting queues in the public sector. And we worked very well together with a number of private hospitals. We negotiated, yes, the rates and all that, but we were able to serve the people of South Africa as a collective within the health system. So it is possible. Let us not look back. Let us be focused, and those that are anxious, let us assure them that this is the right thing to do. Humanity, when it is at its most need, you don't have to first dig into your pocket to check how deep it is. We need to be humane. We need to embrace one another. And as a progressive and revolutionary movement, the African National Congress and the alliance partners, we have led the introduction of this bill to Parliament, the 6th administration. We want to salute the President Cyril Ramaphosa, Minister who started the bill, and Minister Pasha, who is holding the fort now, and all those that contributed to finally the bill being passed by National Assembly, by NCOP, and on the desk of His Excellency President Ramaphosa. We have arrived here. Let us take the journey further. I thank you and I wish you well, and I hope that you will allow me to continue with other responsibilities that are equally important. And I trust that many of you here who are the Tinzwalos will also remember to contribute to the African National Congress capability and capacity, especially financially and in any other way by volunteering, like many are volunteering today, to ensure that we continue to manage democracy. It is very important to do so. And we must also remember that we are now in the transition towards the elections on the 29th of May. I trust that all the health, those in the health sector, you have registered for special votes. If not, let us organize ourselves to make arrangements for hours that can go and register. I have no doubt that our election machinery has made it possible for health workers when they come to be in a priority queue, especially when they are on duty. So we salute our health workers for being with us during difficult times. We've now conquered HIV, although not completely. We've conquered the COVID together with you as a pillar, and there is no way, never believe that the ANC government undermines health workers, whether they be at the professional support or support sectors in the sector. We need you. NHI will need more and more and more of you. I salute you and wish you well with this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly. Thank you so much, the Honorable Treasurer General of the ANC, Dr. Brian Ramaphosa. Thank you for your wise words. We want to appreciate you, and we agree with you, TG, that indeed the need for NHI is as yesterday. For healthcare services should be an equalizer in this country. We thank you for the information, and we also want to appreciate you for encouraging the audience to go out in large numbers on the 29th of May to vote. TG and Minister, the people of South Africa are saying if NHI was a political party, they would be going to the polls running. And the people of South Africa are saying if NHI was a political party alone, it will outvote every political party that appears on the ballot paper. They also say, Minister, they had His Excellency, the President of the country, saying that he was looking for the pen to sign. And the people of South Africa are saying they have a pen. They would love to present the pen to His Excellency as a gift before the 29th of May 2024, so that they can go running to the polls on the 29th of May 2024 when the NHI bill has been signed into law by His Excellency, our President. A round of applause. Thank you so kindly. I would wish to also indicate that this program is live streamed, and if audience would like to have a link, they would contact any usher who's on the floor to have access to the live stream. And I also wish to acknowledge other esteemed members that are present with us today. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Bandile Masuku, the PEC member, and Comrade Ezra Letwalo, the PEC member. I also wish to acknowledge the PPF leadership, Mr. Pat Baloy, who's the coordinator of the PPF, and Mr. Hemen Radale, who's the convener of the PPF, the CEO of SAMA, Dr. Mzu Lotikita, Comrade Mosi Ndlovu, the chairperson of Subcommittee of Health in Johannesburg region. We acknowledge every esteemed member present, and we appreciate your presence, and will continue acknowledging members as they come. And they may also alert the ushers of their presence so that they can be accordingly acknowledged. I am going to request my co-presenter to come and introduce our esteemed members who have got messages of support. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thandi. To some of us here who lived through the period of apartheid, and I'm sure that many of you that are here lived through that period. When the date of elections, the first democratic election was announced for the 27th of April in 1994, first, none of us ever believed that it is us that are going to vote for a democratically elected government. It was unbelievable. When the African National Congress presented its manifesto in 1994, when you go and read that manifesto, things that it promised, it looked too good to be true. That we're going to live wherever we want, in any suburbs, in any part of the country. It looked too good to be true because we're restricted. that we can go and to school in any school that we want. Schools that were formerly white, that after the dismantling of apartheid, we can go into any school that we want. It looked too good to be true. That we can go to any hospital that we want. At that time, we were black and white hospitals. It looked too good to be true. That we can go to any recreation facility. When we imagine ourselves going to swim in the swimming pools in the suburban areas, it was too good to be true. That we can be in the same bus or train or aeroplane for that matter with white people. It looked too good to be true. But that was in the manifesto of the ANC in 1994. And that's what the ANC promised the people of South Africa. And this is the South Africa we live in today. The National Health Insurance. The National Health Insurance is the second biggest transformation policy since the dawn of democracy. That when we are sick, we don't have to have money. The National Health Insurance Fund will pay. That we can go to private public hospitals. It looks too good to be true. But the rest, we've got the minister, we've got the deputy minister, and we've got the panelists. Colleagues, now is time for messages of support. I think a number of organizations already represented here has been introduced. Everyone that is here to come and listen to the ANC government and what is the government planning in terms of implementation of the National Health Insurance. And it is important to remind you the theme of this conference, beyond the bill towards implementation. We've got 3 organizations that will give an opportunity to for 5 minutes, give a message of support. We have got Dinosa. Thank you very much. As we indicated earlier on, that we are privileged and blessed to have both the minister and the deputy minister coming to grace this occasion. And as we know, during this time of election campaign, there are many programs. Coming here, they are coming from different provinces in other election programs. From here, there are still other engagements that they have to engage on. So in terms of the program that we have in front of you, we're supposed to have messages of support. But because they have to make presentation and later on attend to other programs, we are going to give them an opportunity. The deputy minister will first make the presentation, and then the minister will then follow after that, so that we give them an opportunity. What I was saying about celebrating the National Health Insurance, what it will impact on everyone is what is going to be presented today. I would like to give this opportunity to the MEC of Health, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the ANC in the province, to introduce both the Deputy Minister and the Minister. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am not going to be long. We don't have time, as you are aware. And I think both program directors, let me acknowledge them and acknowledge the team that has done this work. Minister and DM are going to speak on the NHI, but again on the work that we've done as a country, including our province, which is Gauteng. So I hate to disappoint you, directors, because I'm not going to say anything. But all that we can say, in the province, we have a lot of work that we've done, which Minister and DM can confirm that work, because we are in consultation with National. Anything that we do that is related to NHI, it's not done outside the framework of what National is doing, including the assessment that they are doing to us as a province, which, dear Minister, we really appreciate that support, because there's even those teams that we have set up in all the sectors that are moving with the teams from each province, including our province, that is working very closely with yourself. So we really appreciate that support, and I think we can confidently say, as you know, we always say in the meetings which you call, we're ready as the province to start this work. But it's in terms of those areas, which ones can we start, depending on what you, because we'll be guided by yourselves again. But then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the two gentlemen that you know. Both are the doctors by profession. The first one is Dr. Spunseni Lomo, who's our Deputy Minister. And the second gentleman that I'm introducing is my boss, Dr. Joe Padla, who is going to address us tonight. All of us under one roof as professionals, and I think they are happy that during the week, everybody has been here when you can receive the invitation, including the bars of everyone that wanted to be part of this, Minister. We really appreciate it. Thank you, both of you, for honoring this engagement today. I'm handing over to you, DM, and to Minister to come and address us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Comrade Nabantu, the MEC for Health and Wellness. I think we must always add that here in Gauteng is not just health but also wellness. I'm still waiting. Hopefully, the next national minister will, the designation will change from health to health and wellness. But at this stage, Gauteng is still leading. Let me recognize our two program directors. Thank you very much, Dr. Karen, Dr. Madeba. Thank you very much for steering this program. Our TG in absentia for really inspiring us to have this activity. Also, our Comrade Chair of Johannesburg, Dada, thank you very much, and my colleague, Deputy Minister, Comrade Vuyo, also, thank you very much for also welcoming us to your province of Gauteng, both the PEC and also legislature, and good evening to all the colleagues, comrades from different organizations who are here. I think in the interest of time, I will not repeat the names of various organizations represented here. I want to thank Gauteng Province for leading in convening this discussion this evening. Also, the Progressive Professional Forum for bringing us here together. Now, because we function as a team, both at organization and also at government level, we did agree with Comrade Lomo that for the purpose of tonight, he will do the presentation, and myself will be in support in terms of the discussions. And part of that, just to explain also that it wasn't trying to put him on the spot. We worked together as indicated that he was the chair of the committee when the legislation was brought to Parliament. When I was the Deputy Minister and Comrade Zweli Mkhize was the minister. But even before that, when we were discussing from the white paper, he was the MEC in the KwaZulu-Natal province. So he has also been part and parcel of all these discussions during the time of Comrade Mtsoaledi. It just happened also that I just arrived not long ago from George in the Southern Cape, where I'm sure all of you are aware of a serious tragedy which have befallen our people in that area, where a building has collapsed and many people have perished. Up to this morning, and even by the time I left, There were still 44 people who were unaccounted out of 81. Out of the other 37, 9 had already been declared to pass away, and the other, I'm trying to just work out the balance now, just around 29 of those had been treated. Some had already been discharged, so we went to see some of those who are still in hospital today, both at the private hospital, George, and also at the provincial hospital. I think one of the things which practically one would want to say, I think that experience also just indicated to me that we indeed need that integration, where I have one system. TG did mention that at various times, including during COVID, but also at the times when she was the MEC, there were programs through which the public and the private worked together. But what we need is a more sustained rather than, program based on particular episodes. Just to give you an example, the sectors worked together in that area. When the tragedy struck, the patients were brought to the provincial hospital. When they realized that they were not able to cope, they spoke to the counterparts at the private hospital and they agreed. They kept some of the patients, some of those especially who needed theatre, when their theatres could not cope. They discussed and they were able to direct some of those ambulances to go to the private hospital. But just to remind us that we're not yet there, there's still a lot of work. Of course, some of the things now which, as things stabilize, just we're touching on it today, is the fact that somebody has to pay for the services which have been rendered at the private hospital. So those discussions are still are still ensuing, looking at whether, for instance, from the compensation, from the labor, quota compensation for injury on duty, those can also then, but of course that situation complicated in that particular area, and this incident specifically, it might be unique in the sense that even as we're discussing that, the issue also was that, I'm sure some of you might have picked up, which really adds more complications, a number of those injured are undocumented. They were, employed by the contractor being undocumented. So there's even an issue now in terms of establishing a real identity. So that creates a separate and additional burden. But of course you can understand that if this kind of thing was to happen at a time when you have an integrated system, especially from the financing point of view, that would not be an issue. Of course, there's still a question in terms of the dispensation for, it's clear even in the bill in terms of refugees, asylum seekers, question becomes about undocumented, but both in the bill and also in our National Health Act and in the Constitution, emergency services are very clear that everybody, citizens and non-citizens, are entitled to emergency medical services, which this is. But of course, because of lack of the two-tier system, even when that has happened, when there's been good cooperation at the end, something which you can't avoid discussing, somebody has to pay in terms of the services which were provided from the private side. And that's really just food for thought, and why the agency in terms of a fully integrated health system. But on that note, comrades, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite my comrade Lomo, to give a little bit more meat to what we are here for, where we are, where we come from, and where we are still going from here. Over to you.
Thank you very much to the two program directors and my leader, the minister, for what he has actually asked me to do, because he was going to be held up elsewhere. So
he asked me to prepare, but also to apologize in advance that as soon as I finish presenting, just in support of those who are giving me support in driving, we have to be driving to Newcastle tonight for an 8 o'clock event there. So thank you very much. And thanks to the organizers, both the African National Congress and the Business Forum that has actually done this wonderful work. Leadership for the African National Congress led by our TG who has left, also my minister who is also a member of the National Executive Committee, PEC members who are here, led by our Nomantu MEC, but also as the Deputy Chair of the province, the Chair of this region that we are in. Thank you very much. From the Chair also in the Council. To the esteemed leaders who are here from various areas, civil society, business, health. Just to say, to be here is a very important for us and very pleasing that we are able to engage with yourselves. But of course, I must indicate upfront I was invited, Minister was invited, so he delegated me to go and speak to the BHF. And we are actually announced in that meeting that the Deputy President has said, let us not close discussions on ironing up some of the issues that are coming up, raised by different leaders in regard to the NHI. However, we are married as a country to this program because it is a responsive program by the World Health Organization. Citizens all over the world went into Kazakhstan in 1978 and came back saying health for all by the year 2000. Needless to say that the year 2000 came and it went. And there was no health for all citizens of the world. And therefore, all of us in the world, we are behind time in terms of really doing that. Number two, for our country, it is part of the Section 27 of the Constitution, where it talks about accessing health by all citizens. That clause further says it is a legislative responsibility of that country, of our country, that state, to make sure that its citizens do receive the universal health coverage. Now, we just happen to be following that trend in the world. Our universal health coverage in the country is called National Health Insurance. Like all other countries, Thailand, UK, whichever, they model their own based on whatever they think is suitable for them. And therefore, ours dates back from 1942, which was what was in our country African Games, led by and it also already outlined that African Games something about the National Health Insurance, though it did not spell out the name. Now, I am actually privileged to, as Minister was saying, that when this process was completed by the executive, and then it landed into our space in Parliament, I was the chairperson who then received it on behalf of the parliamentarians, and therefore had to work on that process. On the 10th of July, Cabinet approved, finalized it, sent it to Cape Town. It arrived on us on the 26th of July, and then we started working on it. We were very fortunate then to start working immediately. While we were doing that, there were citizens of the country who were coming in from this institution, that institution, be it SAMA, be it any entity, universities, the deans and everybody. They wrote and said, we would want to come and make a presentation to yourselves. We received those ones. And the way the process was so open, they said to us, look, we have closed too quickly, can you open up? Give us 2 more weeks. We opened up for a whole month to make sure that everybody was being embraced. And then we started the process. We had 36 meetings in the country, of 4 meetings per province. And we are over 36,000 people came into those meetings and spoke. About 920 people came and spoke on the mic. Of those who spoke, 810 said we support the bill. In fact, some of them were saying, we thought we were coming in to unpack when are you starting with this universal health coverage. We have been waiting for it for so long. 821 said we would like to have this NHI bill going on. 105 did not support the So overwhelmingly, there was support for the bill. We went into the legislature to then listen to those others who wanted to make submissions. Overall, there has been a submission. There has been a support of the bill. Hence, on the 23rd of June, we voted in the National Assembly, and 205 in favor of the bill, and overwhelmingly it was the African National Congress, supported by three other smaller parties. Very much noticeable that the DA, the EFF, IFP, and the ACDP, the media ones, they did not support the bill. Then this bill then had to be taken to the Council of Provinces on the 6th of December 2023. NCOP, through meetings that were conducted countrywide, also supported the bill. So yes, we hope the president is going to get a special pen to really make sure that he signs it into law. And therefore, we are therefore saying, as this meeting is about, what then beyond that? And that is probably where one may also have our other panelists adding on to that. The first part is to really entrench this understanding to say, the National Health Insurance talks about, I take care of my health, but I also have a responsibility to take care of the health of my grandmother, my neighborhood, my sister. So it is calling for a social solidarity that we take care of everybody else. And this is actually coming in from what I already indicated from this part of the universal health coverage, the Kazakhstan story. So you then have to actually have that process, and it's something that is actually going to remove a financial risk. Whenever we talk about it, let's not forget about certain terms we call catastrophic health expenditure. Catastrophic health expenditure is when everybody in this house, in this household, would want to spend every cent to looking and actually to find this aggressive cancer that is affecting the father of the house. Irrespective of whether they sell the cow, whether they sell the house, or whether they sell including the car. At the end of it all, after 2 years, the cancer is back and probably passed on, and it leaves a family that once was not very wealthy, but not poor. The father was a teacher, and the mother was a nurse, managing good life, and they now suddenly don't have any resource. There's a risk that is there. Forget about the risk of my grandmother. It's a risk that is actually there amongst us as actually the middle class and the people in that area. So that child has no future now because it's unlikely that there will be NSFAS for that child because as far as parents do not qualify, they were in the slot of having an education policy which is also gone for that child. And therefore, so what we are therefore saying is to remove the financial risk. So where are we now? What then has been prepared that I could actually share with you is 3 phases. There is phase 1, which is also in agreement with what our leaders, the president and all other leaders have said, that there's no country including us that has actually wanted to implement NHI in one big bang. It is going to be incremental, it's going to be a staggered manner, and therefore that's where we are. So we are talking of a stage, phase 1. 2023 to 2026, where will that be actually having an NHI fund establishment through Schedule 3 public entity. The proclamation of parts of the Act will then be putting processes of getting things like the board and other governance structures in place. So that is also after the PAN has actually, so we can't start this until the PAN has given us this. So, but we are hopeful that the PAN will then do that, and then once we do that, we are going to create all these structures. We also must continue engaging the private sector, collaborating. Because really, if we look into our plan, there are citizens in this country who will wish to continue their medical aid. Oh, let it be so, because the kicking in of saying, I also should be comfortable to say, the primary care program in the country is so comforting that I just can do away with my medical aid. But if I still want to jump the queue or want to do this, then the other, then you are free to keep it. We would wish that it is there just to supplement what will not be part of this comprehensive health package that we are going to bring. So there will be some collaboration and talks with the Council of Medical Schemes so that we give them comfort. So it's going to be creating such processes. So We think that is going to kick in, but part of it already started by our minister. 2026 to 2028 will be a second phase. So where we then begin a program of orientating and putting orientation programs and presentations to stakeholders, and also putting some mechanism to say what will give here. If we are going to create a universal health coverage fund, what must then not be sent down to how far do we send to having in the provinces? We are all buying in one big basket. So actually strengthening the creation of the Schedule 3 public entity in that regard. We also have a proviso because people are quick to say, but why do you want to do this because you guys are corrupt? We are saying there is also an anti-corruption health forum which is there, established to guard against those processes. So we cannot not do something good and start energized because we are fearful, oh, they're going to have some corruption. We need to put in place that those things should be there. So we would hope that as we continue in this phase 2 again, is strengthening the discussions between our minister and the Minister of Finance, because we would not be able to, as health activists, indicate exactly how much money must come from general tax, from other arrangements that could come in there. Those discussions will then be ongoing, and that is what we think will come into what some of us look into as phase 2. And then phase 3 will then, when all this has been put together, and we are working, therefore, the other thing that will happen again in phase 2 is some of the things that were said by the health market inquiry regarding how NHI is being, how private sector is really handling issues of health in the country. So there are certain things that the minister is empowered to come and call the private sector. These are things that must put in place and all that. And those things also are hanging, not being handled. So what we therefore I want to end by saying is that the program that we are engaged in as a country is something that is not unique to South Africa. Other countries, progressive countries, have done this because they care. They say in their communities, every life is important, and therefore they go through this route. How to get there is different models. But our minister and other colleagues have gone to other countries to go and beg and borrow, see what works for those countries. And therefore what we put together is what has actually been seen happening in those countries, but ended up being our own model as a country. And I want to end up by saying the door for consultation, talking about this, is actually not closed. We need to continue, but our vision of primary care focus on the child remains. Just to give an example, when we got this bill from the minister executive coming to parliament, there was actually many clauses that were saying the minister shall appoint, the minister shall do this and that. Through consultation and also reflecting to it, as portfolio committee members, we have then come to some agreement to say the minister, in consultation with various bodies, whether the parliament or executive or cabinet. So there's been areas where there's been some amendments from the bill the day it came from the executive when going to parliament, rather than to say we are rubber stamping what came from the executive. So I just wanted to say it's a problem that we should not really postpone for too long now, in actually working on to implement. Many progressive countries have done this. In fact, countries that have actually gone this way are able to record certain progress on issues
introduce our MEC. You all know that they say that when Gauteng sneezes, the whole country catches cold. So if Gauteng is ready for the implementation of the national health insurance, it means that it will encourage the rest of the other provinces to follow likewise. Our current MEC of Health, the Honorable Norman Komo Ralewoko, is the Deputy Chairperson of the African National Congress in Gauteng. She's also a former MEC of Finance in Gauteng. And currently, as we have said, she's the MEC of Health. Let's welcome the Honorable Norman Komo Ralewoko, MEC. Thank you very much. Protocol. Now that the minister has spoken, it's all spoken on behalf of the MEC as well. My sincere apologies. I hope you will actually forgive us for that misunderstanding. And we are learning a lot. We thank you for the advice, Minister and Deputy Minister. Colleagues, we would like to acknowledge the following. I think my program director will acknowledge some of the leaders that have just joined us before we can proceed with the program.
Thank you, Dr. Nkari. We would like to acknowledge Dr. Stephen Gomeni, the Deputy President of PPF, Dr. Peter Ramatisela, a Special Advisor to the Office of the MEC, Dr. Fundi Nyati, Dr. Sam Setla, and we also wish to acknowledge other members present today. Thank you so kindly, the Honorable Minister, for the speech. We actually would like to appreciate the fact that the Minister has opened doors, in particular for collaboration with the private healthcare sector, and would love to engage further with the Office of the Minister in respect of the NHI, in particular coming from the private health industry. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll move on to messages of support. We've got 3 organizations that will give us messages of support. We'll have a representative from Dinosa, Comrade Simon Rubali, who is the president of Dinosa. We'll also have Comrade Sidney Khara from Nehau, who's the head of Policy Development Unit. And we'll also have Dr. Cedric Sihlangu from Samatu. Samatu is a union for professional health workers. So we will start by Dinosa. Comrade Simon Rubani, if you can come on stage to offer a message of support on behalf of Dinosa. Comrade Simon.
Thanks very much, Program Director. I am not Simon Rubani. I am Simpiwe Gada, the Provincial Chair of Dinosa in Gauteng. I would wish to make an apology for the President because Mpumalanga today, attending the International Nurses Day celebration, but we were informed that he's not far from the event. He was just delayed by traffic. But nonetheless, we will, on behalf of the President, provide a message of support. Let's acknowledge Program Director yourselves, the leadership of the ANC that is present here. In the interest of time, we are not going to go name by name, but simply will say all protocol observed. On behalf of the Democratic Nursing Organization of South Africa, DINOSA, we are here with a delegation, Program Director, MEC and the Minister. There's a delegation of DINOSA in the back, simply because the National Health Insurance is one of the resolutions that DINOSA took to support the implementation of NHI. And on behalf of the nurses of this country, we wish to pledge our support, our full unconditional support for the implementation of the NHI for the following reasons. We believe that it will broaden the access of healthcare, the access to healthcare. We believe as DINOSA in one healthcare system, not in two different healthcare systems. As DINOSA, we say away with the commercialization of the healthcare system. As DINOSA, we believe that health is a right, and we believe that no one chooses to be sick, and therefore the implementation of the NHI is long overdue. Because we believe also that it will address the challenges that we have in the healthcare system, because there's this belief that the private healthcare system is the best healthcare system in the country. And we always argue that if you were to take the number of people who use the public healthcare system, you take them to these private hospitals, you will then see that the infrastructure will not be strong as it is projected to be, as the public healthcare system always receives criticism in this regard. So we believe that one healthcare system will address the health needs in this country, but what is more important, we believe that it will assist in doing away with the unreasonable cost of healthcare system. As we conclude, Chair, we wish to urge the ANC, in particular the President, now that he has confirmed that he found his pen, that he must sign that bill as in yesterday, because we believe that this bill is not an election tool by the ANC. We know that in the 2009 manifesto, NHI was part of that manifesto, and we think that it is long overdue. And therefore want to urge the ANC, want to urge the President to quickly sign. It would be good news if we were to wake up and the President having signed this NHI bill, because other people may think that the ANC is using the bill as an election tool. And as DINOSA want to say to those people that this is not an election tool. But if you truly believe that health is a right, it's not a privilege, you've got no reason that is tangible not to support this bill. Therefore, on behalf of DINOSA, we wish that the ANC must do what is right and implement a bill, not in 2029 leadership of the ANC. This bill must be implemented now. We are not saying that let's ignore the advice of experts, but we believe that it's long overdue now, because it dates back to the 2007 ANC conference. That's where the resolution was taken. So we cannot postpone this any further. We must sign the bill. Today is the 10th. We would be happy even if it can be signed at night. We're the President that used to implement things overnight. So we should learn from that simple rejection, say signing, would be very happy as DINOSA. That's the program directors who step down. We wish also to take this opportunity and assure the ANC that the nurses of this country
that belong to Tinosa and those who don't belong to Tinosa will continue to interact with us, have assured us that there's only one option to vote on the 29th. First ballot, ANC. Second ballot, ANC. Third ballot, ANC. And all messages will vote for ANC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade. We are going to request our panelists to come on stage, and we wish to thank the Honorable Minister and the Honorable Deputy Speaker of the Legislature of Gauteng. They are to attend another function, which is the end of the legislature function. So they would like to be excused. Thank you so much for gracing us with your attendance today. The Minister will, however, remain. Thank you so kindly. Thank you so much. The next message of support will come from the House. Can we have Mr. Sidney Khara, the head of Policy Development Unit in the House? The House is a branch of CASATU. Do you have Mr. Sidney? Do we have Mr. Sidney? If he's not yet in, we will proceed to the Samatu representative, who is the Samatu General Secretary, Dr. Cedric Sihlambu. Thank you so much.
I was told at the beginning that this is an ANC event, but I haven't been hearing any amendments. So maybe I should activate. Say Amanda! Thank you. Honorable Minister of Health, Comrade Joe Pasha. It's an ANC event, so I'll call him Comrade. The Honorable Deputy Minister, who has just left the stage, Comrade Soy Lomo, the Treasurer of the ANC, Comrade Gwen Okopa, Honorable MEC for Health in Gauteng, Comrade Nomandu Mpomo Lihoka, the Provincial ANC leadership and the leadership of the Progressive Professionals Forum, dignitaries, and invited guests, I wish to greet you all. Well, Samatu being the largest and only trade union for doctors in the country, we have in many occasions expressed our unequivocal support for the NHI. We are, however, quite concerned that the President seems to be rather slow to act when it comes to the signing of the bill into law. We don't want to test fate. The President is still the President of the Republic now. We don't know what will happen after the 29th. So our advice to the President is that the President must sign now. Because we don't know what will happen after the 29th. So we urge the President of the Republic to sign the bill now. The NHI is a watershed piece of legislation that, when fully implemented, will change the lives of all South Africans for the better. As health professionals, we can no longer take the health apartheid that is being practiced in this country, where we are divided based on the haves and have-nots. As doctors, we are tired of having to act or play the role of God, having to decide who lives and who dies, having to decide at a nursery ward in Barra which baby goes into the incubator and which one gets left outside to not see the light of day. To us, the NHI embodies the constitutional values, the true right to access to healthcare for everyone, not based on your financial means. The current dialogue of NHI is lopsided. It is largely influenced by the current haves, the middle class, who dominate the discourse. And they do so to preserve their privilege. It's an act of preservation of privilege. I had an interview with Newsroom Africa a week ago to discuss the 30 years of democracy and health. There was a professor who spoke colorfully about some of the gains of the current government for the past 30 years in healthcare. But when the question of NHI was posed, he indicated that he is not comfortable with the NHI, and as a middle-class person, he will pack his bags and simply leave and go somewhere else. The reality, though, is millions of South Africans cannot pack their bags and leave. Many South Africans are struggling. They live on 350 per month. Now, we are saying we need to change healthcare for the better because we are not going anywhere. There's a narrative that is being planted out there that doctors are going to leave. I can assure you now, those who are planting that narrative are not doctors. They are capital. It's the people who are benefiting from the current status quo. It is those who own the big private healthcare providers, the big hospital groups. They are saying doctors will leave, but we've never had a single doctor organization say, we as doctors are going to leave. Our people endured apartheid for many years, but they stayed in this country to fight apartheid, and they defeated it. When it comes to healthcare, doctors in this country are going to stay and fight for the poor, fight for the marginalized, and fight for those without a voice until everyone has equal healthcare for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Secretary. We still do not have the NEHAW representative. We are now going to introduce our panelists. We have Comrade Debo Hadu, who is a member and a leader of the South African Communist Party, the ANC, and a former MK. He has a strong background in public policy and research and political writing, research, political education and training, and he is currently a member of the SACP Central Committee and a member of the Secretary of its Ideological and Political Education Commission. The second panelist member is Mr. Barry James Michel, currently serving as the House Parliamentary Officer, member of the SACP, and he holds a bachelor's degree in politics, economics, and philosophy, and currently enrolled in the economy Economic Modeling Academy. The last panelist is Dr. Konfi Mologo. He has a very long bio. Dr. Mologo is a business associate, scientific advisory council consultant, a former special advisor to the Minister of Health, former Superintendent General, Head of Department of Health and Social Services, Mpumalanga, and a member of the Forum of the South African Directors General, former Chief Director Health Services Delivery, former Director District Hospitals, and former Chief Executive Officer. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thandi. Our panelists have been introduced. The keynote presentation that was made by the Minister and the Deputy Minister. We have heard messages of support. And we think that most of you now have got an idea as to what NHI is all about. When you made the RSVPs, there was an option to ask questions. And I think majority of you have already submitted questions. All the questions that you have submitted when you were registering to attend this event has been forwarded to the Minister, has been forwarded to the Deputy Minister, and has been forwarded to the panel that is in front of us. Amongst the three panel members, they will be able to respond to most of the questions. Not individually, but overall address most of the questions that has been asked. But before we can do that, we would like to give you an opportunity, those of you who are here, who did not ask any question in the portal. We won't just take everyone to raise the questions. I think for control, because already we've got many questions that has been requested. So we'll ask 15 questions, if that is the maximum we can take. And when you stand up, we're not asking you to give a speech. Please be straight to the point. You only have 1 minute to ask your question. It can be a question, it can be a comment. If you don't have a question and you want to comment, feel free to do so. But we are going to take only a maximum of 15 hands if we can reach that number. So that the panel will then look at the questions that have been already submitted and the questions that we have raised. The Minister is still here. The Minister is still here. He's now sitting right in front so that he can hear all of you very clearly. So at the end, when the panelists are done, the Minister will come just to give an overall response and actually close the discussion on national health insurance. So I think our ushers are ready with the mics. I would like to take hands. Yeah, let's take hands and please note the questions. We'll start from our extreme left side. That's number 1. That's number 2. That's number 3. That's number 4. That's number 5. Number 6 there at the end. Number 7 with a mask. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10. Number 11. Number 12. Number 13. Number 14. Number 15. Number 16. That in that order will take only 1 round of heads. But I see one last hand, number 17. 1 minute and 1 minute only. Please be loud so that the panelists can hear you and be straight to the point. You all have 1 minute. You can start.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. I'm from the UK. I'm a big fan of the NHS. That's been referenced several times. Healthcare is a universal human right. I don't think you'll find a single person in South Africa that will disagree with that. But I've sat here for 2 hours and not a single person has mentioned how they're planning to pay for this. And not a single person has even given any idea of the estimate of the cost of this endeavor, which principally is fantastic. And we seem to be referencing the president's pen. Where is his pen? Perhaps we should be focusing on where the president's wallet is.
Thank you very much. Number 2. Number 2, in the order that you have raised your hands.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a resident of Midlands. My name is David Tamahe. What I want to know is when is this going to be implemented? My conversation with her, but although it was through the phone. To plead because I've been knocking, I'm dialyzing privately. I'm spending 15,000 a month and I'm a pensioner. The answers that I got from the doctors always said, "Bara at renal clinic is I'm old because I'm 70. They cannot help me." I've applied for medical aid. The medical aid has accepted me, but my waiting period is for 1 year. Before they can start helping me. So I was asking at Bara that they must take me in their program at least for this 1 year before the medical aid kicks off. Because I don't have money. I'm even thinking of selling my properties. It's either I die before they implement NHI or I must sell all my properties to survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Number 3.
Thank you. Good evening, colleagues and comrades. Allow me to acknowledge the leadership of every sector and organization represented here today, members of the esteemed panel, program directors, and my organization, the ANC. My name is Joseph Langeni. I'm from the African National Congress in Zone 16 in Greater Johannesburg. The Freedom Charter in 1955 states that a preventative health scheme shall be run by the state. Free medical care and hospitalization should be provided for all. This was 69 years ago. My question to the panel is, why is private sector so afraid of a piece of legislation that will benefit the entire society? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mahalwani Scott. I'm an attorney. My question is, one of the factors that contribute to the chasm between the quality of healthcare you receive in the private sector and in the public sector is the labor. So the individuals rendering the services. And the complaint or the conversation of the temperature in the space is that there simply is not an appetite to be as competent as you would be required to in the private sector, because obviously your performance then informs your reward. So my question is, what is the bill saying about the capacitating of the human resource underlying the offering of the services, and what are we going to do to ensure that the performance actually aligns, if not exceeds, what is happening in the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Evening, colleagues. My name is Advocate Chabo Mamwemba. I'm a young professional. One of the issues that we have with the medical aid schemes, especially for self-employed individuals, is that if you stop working, you don't have money to pay for your medical aid. And we've seen a lot of professionals, once they get ill and they stop working, they cannot sustain their medical aid, and then they're forced to go to the public sector, and most of the times, sometimes it happens that they do fall ill and it doesn't work out. I just want to find out for us who are young professionals who don't fall in the poor, who aren't the rich, who are self-employed, how will the NHI assist us? Because in instances where we are working, we can provide up for ourselves and we can pay for medical aid. But in instances when we are sick and stop running our practices or stop running our own businesses, will the NHI also cater for us, or will they tell us, no, you chose medical aid and that's where you will stay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Yeah, so far we all doing well. None of you has spent more than a minute. So let's follow like that.
Evening, everyone. My name is Carol Ngosi. So I am in a graduate program in the mining sector. So MKA requires us to have a medical aid, of which we all know medical aid is quite expensive for an intern. So just to comment, this NHI is definitely a great idea. As our first speaker said, it is a fantastic idea. Before I ask this question, I just wanted to point out that comment. This will be very helpful as well for graduates. So my question is, we all know it's not a secret on the public healthcare and the private one. When you implement this thing, NHI, what measures will you put in place in terms of managing the private to not be similar in terms of management as the public, because it's not a secret in terms of the healthcare and the provision and the management. What measures have been put in place to control that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good evening, honorable ministers and all protocol observed. My name is Daniel Dima. I'm the CEO of KBio. For those who don't remember, during COVID, we are the one that came with the PCR test. So when we speak about capabilities that in the country developed, that was us. I am often asked by my colleagues from abroad, they often ask me, with your NHI, what will happen if we stop bringing our tools or technologies or diagnostics to your country? And I say that will mean that we will fail. So my question is, have we thought of using NHI as a propeller for industrialization? Because that's what we need. Especially when we look at the gaps in the value chain, to make it more affordable and accessible. The reliance on import when it comes to our healthcare is in itself a deficiency or inefficiency that we need to look at. And that is why there are gaps that the private sector is threatening 20-year court battle the moment we sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Benjamin Mohoje. I'm a health activist. I want to say that the theme is quite timely to say that we are moving beyond the bill towards implementation, and I think that is quite important because we have been discussing for a very long time. The Deputy Minister indicated that there were public hearings, so there has been a lot of talks. Now we are at the point of implementation, and I think we need to stop asking about whether or not the NHI is a good plan, but start talking about how is it that we are going to implement and make it a success. It's also important to emphasize that the NHI is not just for patients who are relying on the public healthcare system. Even those of us who are funded by the private medical schemes, we also need the NHI because we are drowning in terms of the premiums. The Health Market Inquiry said that we are paying 6 times more compared to the OECD countries, that by September 49% of us have depleted our day-to-day savings, and that ends up leading to catastrophic healthcare expenditure. So NHI is not just for those in public healthcare system, I want to emphasize this, but even for those of us in the private healthcare sector. But the question specifically that I want to ask, I don't know if I heard the Deputy Minister correctly.
You are left with 30 seconds.
That is enough. Thank you, Program Director. The Deputy Minister said that even for those on private, it will not just be about complementary services, there's space to talk. And we need the Deputy Minister to just elaborate, because Section 33 does not seem to be saying so. It says once NHI is fully implemented, the private medical schemes will only cover complementary services. So we don't want to leave here confused. Can the Deputy Minister clarify what he means when he says there's space for engagement? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Stavros Nikolaou. I wear many hats, but this evening I'm an industrial pharmacist, and I'm going to focus on that area in the remaining 55 seconds I have. We've heard many times this evening that in order to have a healthcare system that provides universality, effectiveness, and delivers for the population, we need to have our own capacity and capabilities. Regrettably, right now, when it comes to the pharmaceutical devices diagnostic segment of that, we are a serial importer of these products. Two problems with that, and then I'm going to pose my question. The first problem is we have a heavy reliance on importers, and we saw what happened when the world shut its borders on South Africa. The second problem is we are not opening up the space for black pharmaceutical industrialists. My question is, we've discussed this many times with the Minister and the government. My question is more a request that in the 7th administration, because we know who's going to form the next government, is that we see a clear coordination between 5 ministries that are required to execute on this. Because if we do not do this now, we will have missed the boat forever and a day. We will forever be dependent on importers who will determine our fate and destiny. The 5 departments are National Health, DSTI, Science, Technology, Innovation, DTIC, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Treasury, and the Presidency. And I need to, Minister, include SAPRA in that as well. We need clear coordination and pulling in the same direction so we can execute and deliver on this. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Next. In that order.
Thank you, comrade, for giving me the mic. My name is Koto Bofu. My question will be, now that we've had NHI is going to be, it's a bill now to be implemented. As far as I'm concerned, I'm an engineering consultant. The whole network of hospitals that we have less than 100,000 beds. What are we planning in terms of building more hospitals? Because this is going to go ahead. How many hospitals in the 10-year span that are we willing, how many beds are we going to be putting in that 10-year span so that we can be able to accommodate everybody? That's my question.
Thank you.
What I wanted to understand, okay, currently we have high unemployment rates, and companies are currently retrenching people so that...
Please speak up a little bit, sorry.
Oh, I have this. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm saying currently we have a high unemployment rate, and companies are currently retrenching people, and we're having another high employment rate. And currently the ones that are working are suffering due to the high interest rates. So currently, looking at this, NHI, it looks like it's a short-term plan, not a long-term plan. So how are you going to fund it long-term? Because currently that is just short-term right now. That is what I'm gathering from this.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Selo Sidingwe, an optometrist in private practice with great interest in public health and managed health care, as well as the branch chairperson of Madiba branch of 28 Mohali City. Just a few questions, so I hope I'm going to cover them in a minute. On NHI, my understanding is that the private sector, in particular Discovery Health, will be managing funding for NHI. Please elaborate on that as to why is that so, because we've got many departments within government which could actually execute such tasks. And again, during public hearings, I remember one in Kagiso with Dr. Komo. It came to our attention that foreign nationals' access to our healthcare services during NHI will be limited to just stabilization, like when someone's injured, they just stabilize the person and then send them back home. And for me, it looks like a lot of foreign nationals roaming or illegal foreign nationals roaming our country will be sent back home, and that could be a very good thing to do. I'm not sure how possible that will be. And then again, being an optometrist myself, I feel like a lot of stakeholders were not sort of engaged extensively on this NHI bill, including professional associations like ours. And I still feel like we do have a very important role to play within our healthcare system. But as it is, I'm for the endorsement and the signing of this bill by the President.
Thank you very much.
Before the 29th of May.
Oh, thank you. Next.
Hello.
Please keep to 1 minute. Time is not on our side.
I'll do my best. Hi. Hello, everybody. I'm not going to start off with my name. I don't think that's important. I will start off by saying I'm one of the unemployed junior doctors in South Africa. And I want to say no disrespect to anybody here or anybody who spoke to us, but I sit here very sad because I'm still very confused. And I want to know, when are we as health workers going to be spoken to understand what's going on, and especially us as the juniors who are coming up. Those of us who are going to be in charge of the health of this country are currently sitting here confused. We don't know what is going to be handed to us. In fact, we're not even being mentored on how to be in these positions. So I'm here begging, on behalf of health workers, please tell us more. Please. And as a South African as well, I've seen a lot said on the news about the buzzwords, universal health care. Oh, Mama, you'll just be able to go to the clinic. Can you please explain to Mama what it actually means? And what people who are currently experiencing universal health care, the challenges that they have to face, not as to say we shouldn't do it, but to say this is what it is. This is what may come, this is what may happen, but please, to our leadership, you're confusing us. We're confused, we're sad, we're frustrated. Please.
Thank you. Point noted. Thank you very much. Next. I think number 14. Okay, please, 15, yes. Almost done.
Thank you, leadership. My name is Lindomushen Tumba. I represent an organization called the Greater Diepsloot United for a Better Future. My question is more of a comment, rather. I think the biggest opposition to the NHI seems to be those on medical aid. And it's not because we can afford medical aid, but it's more of a confusion. We do not understand how is this NHI going to be fully supplemented and factored into the medical aid system, and how will it work? What will be the giveaways? What will be the takeaways for those already on medical aid? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it 16? No, we had 17. I think if we had 16, we're not taking any new hands. Please, no more new hands. Who's 16? Please go ahead. Skip 9.
Hello.
Okay, 16, then 9. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. My name is Kenny Todeti. I'm from South African Medical Student Union. We exist in all the medical universities. So we want to know that the who recommended patient to doctor, it's 1:1,000. So, for example, in some villages there are no primary health care, and then the NHI section 7 subsection 2D, it says that it will prioritize the primary health care, but in some villages there are no, at least a clinic, a first point of care for a patient. So we want to know that how are we going to solve that? That is the first question. Then the second one is that there was an article, or some medical students, they are saying, you know, the doctors, the specialists, when they are there in hospital, they are saying they will leave the country when the NHI is implemented. So my question is that how are we going to retain this special care, from these specialists? So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. And number 9, which was skipped. Please. Oh, okay. Then number 9, please. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Lorata Ramba from Lorata Foundation. My question is, I hear that the idea is very good. NHI is a very brilliant idea. But how are we going to make sure that what we say is a good idea and what we present to our South African citizens is a true reflection of what is really happening on the ground? Because lip service is good, but people are hungry for implementation of what we say. And us making sure that what we say is really happening on the ground in a standard that is of a good quality. So my question to you, my leaders, is how are you going to make sure that what is happening, or what you're saying with your mouth, is a true reflection of what is happening on the ground?
Okay, thank you very much. Last, number 9, which we skipped. Please move the mic closer to number 9. Dr. Anyati, thank you for live streaming us this event. We really appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. Evening, Minute, and everyone else who organized this function. This past week, I was at the Board of Healthcare Funders Conference in Cape Town. And obviously, that's where all medical aids, sit and look at risks to the industry and everything. There's a lot of skepticism, negativity. In fact, I think guys are ready to make sure that this doesn't get implemented for the next 10 to 20 years, because they will go to every court in this country. Now, in that context, it seems to me that the big issue is that Section 33 that says once NHI has been fully implemented, the medical aids cease to exist. They cease to exist. They can I talk? They can continue to provide complementary services, like a top-up service for your car insurance, all right? Which is different, covering something that is not covered in the basket of services that NHI offers. Now, my question is, is the department to get bogged down for the next 10, 20 years fighting, or there is room for further engagements around those issues? Well, that seems to be the main issue from the private sector, because in terms of the use of the facilities, it is clear anyone can get their facility accredited and they can be able to make use. So there is no problem with the private sector itself. Other people are lying and saying, it's killing private sector. But the private healthcare funding, that is the issue. So my question, there's a big trust deficit. What is it that can be done to try and close, the gap? Obviously, government has got a responsibility to govern. That's why 27.1 A and B are there for the government to make sure that things happen. But how do you address this that can delay the implementation?
Thank you very much. I think we are done in terms of, is that the last one? No, in terms of hands that were raised before, I think we are done. Thank you very much. To those that still wanted to raise their hands, unfortunately time is not on our side. We have listened, I think the panel and the minister have listened to all the questions that have been raised. Some of the questions that has been raised has already been raised by those that posted it in the portal. And some other questions are indeed new that have been raised here. But in terms of response, we do not expect the panel or the minister for a blow-by-blow response. But I think they have read the questions and they have listened to the questions. And then we'll appeal to the panelists that as they come forward, they try to the best of their ability to address questions that has been raised, posted previously, and the questions that has been raised in this platform at this point. I will be advised by the panelists who will come first. Who's first? Comrade Debogo.
Good evening. My name is Tebogo Pan. Before I start, let me just thank the organizers of this important session, important topic in the midst of election campaigns. To have this topic, on the agenda, because it's a very, very important About not knowing where we are going or where we come from. So, and NHI is an example of one side of struggle that is open. People are very open on why they are opposed to NHI. But also people are open on why they are for NHI. The purpose of our movement is not to say how nice these divisions should remain as they are. The purpose is to persuade, to unite our people around the principles of NHI implementation, which is much more what that NHI, including its implementation, asks us to do, is to accept the principle of universal coverage, universal health coverage. Do we all agree? Oh yes, that's a nice idea, including even DA says we believe in universal health coverage. Okay, show us how are you going to achieve universal health coverage? Zero. Most of the oppositions that have proposed that they like the idea, they are opposed to NHI, but they are unable to offer any concrete proposal than the one offered by our movement on universal coverage, which simply means every South African must be treated equally in terms of access to healthcare services, and money should not be a barrier for you to access a good healthcare. That's all it says. Money should not be a barrier for every South African. It means your socio-economic status should not count. Okay, we obviously in the Communist Party, we say from each according to ability, to each according to needs. In other words, NHI must be concerned with the health needs of the people. Not whether such a person is unemployed, is earning low, is middle class, is a worker, is what. No. That's not should be the basis. You must address her or his needs. That's a very, very important principle of universality. The second thing, and which is embedded in the NHI definition, and by the way, this is not a South African definition of NHI, it's universal. United Nations, world all over, they agree with the same definition. That there can be no NHI without financial protection of everyone, following from that universality. Social solidarity, the principle of solidarity, has in itself the issue of financial protection. You must be financially guaranteed that you are going to get health care. You are not worried, how much am I going to pay? Will the doctor pay me? Will I ever be able to access those services because I don't have money? That should not be an issue that preoccupies every South African, whether middle class or poor, because it affects all of us. Money, access to money to get a good health care. Now, that is a very, very important principle of coverage that you must address in the way that the NHI has proposed in its policy and in its legislation. So, I want to come back to this point of social solidarity, this second important principle. Because it says we are a country. There are those of us with huge resources, money. And there are those of us with no at all. And how do we ensure that when it comes to health, at least health, we are able to come together and provide social solidarity? Meaning that the rich subsidize the poor. If you are healthy, you are actually subsidizing those who are unhealthy. If you are young, you are more healthier than the one who is elderly, because he's more sicker and so on. So that is a very, very important principle. That if you have your medical aid, if your medical aid is unable to have effective social solidarity, then that medical aid is useless from the point of view of NHI. It must be funding that solidarize, that subsidize others who can't afford what you afford. How many of us have got medical aids? Of course, most of us have, especially in this middle strata. We are professionals. You know, the average monthly medical aid will cost you 3,000 to 4,000 average. 4,000 a month. A month. All right? And what the NHI is suggesting is that rather than that 4,000 be only for you who work, it should be available or should be shared as much as possible widely. And the only structure that can do that is to have a new financing system in the form of a national health insurance fund. An insurance fund that is going to pool all healthcare funds into a pool of funds, into one fund. Now, that is not uniquely South African. You know, in many countries, they have centralized pool resources in order to provide universal coverage to their population as a whole. But it means that the current healthcare funding system, which is unequal, one for the rich, one for the poor, must be overcome. There are so many health funds here. You know, people don't realize that. They say, where is the money going to come from? Well, currently we are spending almost R500 billion on healthcare. Do you know that? How many of us know that? As a country, I'm not saying just as government. Government is maybe 50% or less than 50% of that. And the rest goes where? Is in a form of medical aids, you know, UIF money. Some UIF money is health there. Health compensations, health and safety funds are there, and so on. So there are lots of funds that are out there, and by their nature but as we all know, this R500 billion is not working for everyone. It's not working for the public sector, and as one comrade was raising, you know, his own medical aid, always cost climbing up. That's one case of where you pay more but for less services in the private sector. So it's not just the public sector that we found a challenge, but also in the private sector. Because in the conventional, in mainstream convention, it's always presented that, you know, all is well in the private sector. The problem is the public sector. But we know, those of us who've got medical aid, that costs have been rising far above inflation, exceeding inflation big time. Majority of our salaries, how much of that money goes to? I've already shown you an average of 4,000. There are people who are paying even more of that. Okay? So the costs are climbing up and they are not sustainable. If they go beyond even inflation, right, raising the cost of living, what the NHI will do is that instead of you paying more on your medical scheme, it says you should pay less, actually, as a administrator. You should pay less. Meaning less than what you are paying now through your employer-employee contributions. That's what it says. So, I've addressed the point about where the money is going to come from, but I want to go even deeper there. Because it is this R500 billion that we must now reorganize so that it benefits everyone. Yeah, okay, 1 minute, yeah. Okay, so I want to stress that point that it is this money, huge money, actually comparable, in percentage to GDP of health, to UK, to even advanced economies. But in this country, it is mal-distributed. And what NHI is proposing is that you can efficiently organize it centrally to address those concerns. Yeah, I wanted to talk about also issues of corruption that always raises, came to the fore and said, okay, what about this NHI and the level of corruption? I agree and I sympathize with those concerns, given the history where we come from. But also, as we say in our manifesto, the ANC manifesto and so on, we have now begun to turn the corner around corruption. Okay? I mean, under this administration, for instance, cases of corruption have gone significantly down. From 38,000 under the previous JZ administration to at least 1,000 or so under this. This is an independent study, it's not me saying it, but independent anti-corruption watchdogs who monitors these things every day. But the second point I want to raise is that the NHI itself has created inbuilt anti-corruption mechanisms into it. It was part of the presentations by progressive, including I've seen progressive professionals, where they emphasize the need for us to make sure that it's insulated from the predators of state resources and so on. So those are my points. I think I will just sit down because of time pressures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Tebogo. We started a little bit late. It's already now, I think it's almost 9 o'clock. We still have the two panelists. I think they will come and address some of the questions and be sensible to time. Thereafter, I'll just ask the minister to give just an overall response and then the program. Comrade Berry.
Good evening, comrades. I'm not going to take as much time as Comrade Tedza. I know that everyone is quite tired. It's already 9 o'clock on a Friday night, so I'll respect that. Just to say that as we speak, tens of thousands of people have been murdered and bombed to death by Zionist Israel. The medical support or infrastructure that's needed to help those innocent civilians, women, children, babies and men, is almost collapsed at this point. So I wanted to use this platform because we're also having a conference next door, 3-day conference on the issue of solidarity with Palestine. Most of us come from different medical or doctors' fields. It's an important aspect of the humanity that we're trying to build through this NHI. NHI, I'm going to give it as quick fulfilling the constitutional obligation. Subsection 27, subsection 1. The current conditions in South Africa necessitate the rollout and implementation of NHI. Workers and the poor suffer from high levels of unemployment, inequality and poverty, which has now manifested into a crisis of social reproduction in which almost all ordinary families cannot sustain themselves through the month. NHI is not going to completely eradicate these difficult social conditions, but it will most definitely mitigate. Which only services 16% of the population. 77% of the white population, my people, the Blungus, have access to medical aid. 77%. In comparison to the African population, only 9% have access to medical aid. 19% of colored comrades and community members have access to medical aid. So NHI seeks to dismantle this highly unequal two-tiered system by making sure that you have access to quality healthcare regardless of your race, class, or gender. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole history of NHI. The Deputy Minister and Minister have spoken to this, but this has been longer than 20 years now. It's gone, and I don't see Stavros here anymore, usually. It's not poof, all of a sudden we've got access to healthcare. It's gradual, it's incremental. But it ought to have been, a lot more ought to have been done at this point where we're now. Because we still got a lot to work towards. And that's going to include, obviously, introduction of additional bills like the money bill. How are we going to fund this? Where's the President's wallet? It's in the National Treasury's pocket. That's where it is. Lastly, is that as to how we want to make these salient points, just these points. NHI must be driven by the people, by our communities and by workers. It mustn't become this captured elitist kind of fun. It must be driven by the Nosa, Samatu, Nahau, by workers and communities themselves. This is why this important aspect of human resources for health comes into forward. So as a way forward, and I know I haven't answered all the questions, but time permitting, is that the ANC, particularly because you've organized like something like this in Gauteng, ANC in Gauteng, COSATU, all progressive bodies, organizations, Comrade Dr. Fundi, individuals like you, we must start putting more and more pressure on the President to sign this bill into law. And if that means writing or using your podcasts or webinars, whatever it might be, to understand the context of what NHI is, okay, and this is my second point, and this comment raised this sharply, and it was also in the questions about an NHI booklet, is that all of us that have a minimum bare understanding of what NHI is, it's our responsibility as leaders to strengthen and popularize what NHI will, what it is, how it will impact society, and that must go to the grassroots comments. That must be in every platform. Now we're on the elections campaign. What are we saying in these platforms? We must be explaining what NHI is and how it's going to impact that 84% of the population that doesn't have private health care. The third thing is that as progressives, as COSATU, the ANC is the party, we must call for an end, a complete scrapping of austerity measures. Neoliberalism proves that it doesn't work. There's no growth coming from this economy. So scrap austerity, properly fund Comrade Joe's department, properly fund NHI, and have political will to get behind NHI to ensure that our people have access to quality healthcare. The last point, and I'll reiterate it again, health is a constitutional right. It's not a commodity. Let's put our people before profits, Makabani. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, indeed, what the 27th of April 1994 was bringing to this country was unbelievable. What the 29th of May in terms of healthcare is bringing to this country is unbelievable. Thank you very much, Comrade Jenny. The last panelist, Dr. Konfi, please come forward, address some of the questions and the questions that has been raised before. But before you can do so, I'd like to acknowledge the ZANU PF Youth League who are here and who have come to join us. Please feel welcome, ZANU PF Youth League. Thank you very much.
Good evening to you all, and thank you very much for taking time to be part of this very constructive discourse. And I'm starting by addressing all of you and thanking you, because if it were not for you having taken time to be here, we would not be having this discussion. We would be talking to the chairs or to ourselves. Let me first acknowledge Comrade Joe Patha, who is the ANC NEC member and the Minister of Health, who's still with us, and also acknowledge all the leaders that were here earlier on. I would also like to thank the ANC Provincial Executive Committee Subcommittee, especially its Health Task Team and the Progressive Business Forum for organizing this occasion, especially the program directors and the organizers, Dr. Ona Sunkari and his team, and the Gauteng ANC and NEC PEC Health Task Team. Let me just mention the fact that we were looking at your questions, and your questions are more than 157. So it is on the basis of that we thought that we should divide them between the three of us as panelists, and even if we are not necessarily answering all of them individually, that the approach should be that we should focus on the points that will end up answering most of your questions. As the Treasurer General said, the ANC undertook a very long and arduous journey to arrive where we are today. we started this discussion around an insurance that would cover everybody, black and white, rich and poor. Not in 2007 when we went to Polokwane and we came with a resolution on the NHI. But these discussions took place over many decades. That is why you find the principles behind the NHI in the Freedom Charter of 1955, in the 1962 Road to South African Freedom, in the 1994 Reconstruction and Development Program, and later when we had the democratic government being put in place, in the policy of government, which is the white paper, 1997 white paper, on the transformation of health services, and even in the law, that is the National Health Act. Now today we can say with confidence that the bill is in front of the President and it is ready to be acceded to. And the National Department of Health and the provinces have reassured us and the people that they are ready to implement the NHI. We must ensure that there is certainty about the readiness of the private sector, from the primary healthcare level to the quaternary level, for the implementation of the NHI Act. 2 points that are of serious concern that come through the questions that you posed to us. Number 1 touches on the principles that underlie the NHI policy, and the other is around the funding of the NHI. Let me just mention here that as we were walking this road towards the NHI Act, we identified various risks that you have mentioned and asked questions about. Around 2008 in April, as we were discussing the policy, the political policy that was supposed to be given to government, we did a risk analysis. And we found that there are a number of bodies that pose a risk to policy making of the NHI and the law making of the NHI, and that they would highly likely be posing a risk to the implementation of the NHI. The first risk that we identified was the medical aid administrators and specific elements within the business sector. And as the question was asked earlier, the question was, why is business worried so much about the NHI? The answer is very simple. If we put this funding mechanism which will ensure equity and universal access to everybody, it means that there's going to be less money in the pocket of those that are in business. That's it. Now, the second risk that we identified was the opposition political parties, especially those who are opposed to this funding mechanism on political and ideological grounds. The third risk that we identified, incidentally, includes even the public sector workers who are members of the medical aid, that is the government medical aid, that is GEMS. We identified that risk because we were saying if the package of the NHI is going to be less than the package that the people get, they are not going to be happy. And that is why the package that the NHI is putting forward is comprehensive, and it is going to be, those that would remember the design of what James called the Tanzanite medical aid. It's more or less that, and what it means is, with the NHI, everybody, irrespective of their power of earning, will have access to health care equitably. Now, the last risk that we identified is incidentally inside of government, specifically some top bureaucrats within the National Treasury. I'm sure you have seen on a number of occasions when the Treasury was not very happy about the NHI. I'll not get into the details, but I'm just identifying that. Now, the strength of what happened, and let me remind you, when a decision was taken that the NHI would be implemented, it was supposed to have been to be implemented within 5 years of the resolution that was taken in 2007. So we were supposed to have implemented the NHI by December 2012. And I'm sure you now understand why ordinary South Africans are saying we are tired of waiting. Those who speak Northern Lesotho will understand when I say our people are saying how should I say it in English? In English, if I try to translate this, I'm saying the general population is saying, take down that juicy meat. We the dogs are getting tired, especially our necks looking up. Now, people must understand here that as we were dealing with the issue of the NHI, in most instances we were not talking about the majority of the people who support the NHI. Most of the time we were attending to the problems that were being raised by those people who have got problems with the NHI being implemented. It then takes me to the heart of the NHI, which Dr. Nyati, in his concern and a bit of note, referred to, which is Section 33 of the National Health Bill. You see, when you say, give us space to discuss further, it's very different from saying, we want to change that which cannot be changed. Section 33 is the heart of the NHI. You kill it, there's no NHI. So, I hope that is very well understood. And that is the reason why I am saying the bulk of the people, if I were to give it to you in numbers, for example, in the Western Cape, we had more than 24,000 people supporting the NHI. We had 177 organizations sending emails and saying that they are opposed to the NHI. And out of that 177, only about 77 were really opposed to the NHI. Now, when you say 177 as opposed to 24,000, is the thing that must prevent the NHI being implemented. If we are saying that any government that has got the authority to to be called a government does so because of the will of the people. You can draw your own conclusion what the will of the people is. And the will of the people is ENHI Ngoko. Now, there is a question that was asked. When are you going to implement the NHI? The NHI is going to be implemented immediately when the president has written that plan. What will have to be discussed as we go on will be the speed of implementation. Currently, the general consensus is it must be implemented relatively slowly over a period of time. But as I'm looking around here, I see the majority of the people being 45, 50 and above.
free with the adverts on how NHI is going to benefit them. Instead of us seeing adverts of flags being banned, we want to see adverts of NHI, how it's going to be implemented and what we must expect. And every citizen must be told their rights on what should they expect when we're implementing NHI so that they get a good service. So with those few words, once again, thank you Minister, thank you government, thank you the ANC, thank you our professionals, Meeting Strata who are here, and thank you for your patience, and we're looking forward to the implementation. So next time we convene you in the NHI, it will be a workshop to say where are the opportunities so that we can do business. Amanda, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hope everyone will travel safely. NHI is not just a social transformation, but NHI is a matter of life and death. As we go to the polls and think about national health insurance, we must think about something that will have an impact on the life, how long our people live and how soon they will die. So as we go to the polls, let's remember that that is important for all of our people. Amandla!